the human, say it again. Human relations. I always get it confused. Paulina Zapata is one of our board members, is also on the Human Relations Commission. Mike Cerrone, a board member, is also on Planning Commission. Agnes Veith, a board member, also on the Arts Commission. And let's see, who else do we have? Martin Pine is on the Planning Commission also. Let's see, I am looking at my, I can look at my screen. Scott Duncan is on the Housing Commission. Crystal Wickham is on the Sustainability Commission.
Sue Cerrone.
Sue Cerrone is on the Arts Commission. Not anymore. Okay, she's the founder for Livable Sunnyvale. So, okay, all right, did I miss anybody? I keep thinking I can look over there, but I can look right on my computer. This will take me a while to get this, I'm sorry. Announcements. I'm gonna try something. One of the announcements I wanted to make is about the housing element. I'm not positive I can share what I want to share, but we'll try anyway. Let's see. What I wanted to say is Mountain View has got their housing element done. And if I try to show my other slide, I can show you. This is a graph of the housing element in Santa Clara County. So let me see if I can make it bigger. Basically, we're one of the laggers who have not submitted their housing element. Saratoga is also not done yet. Mountain View is done. San Jose is not done yet. Santa Clara is done. Los Gatos is done. Los Altos is done. Campbell is done. Cupertino is not quite. Martin's got his hand up. Approved. I don't know if you can. Okay, let me see. Hold on. I can't make it bigger. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I will let Agnes Veith speak about the housing element as an announcement. You gotta yell into this one.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to talk about Sunnyvale's housing element. On May 16th, the city released its second draft, and it was released for public review. But 8 days later, it went on to the California Department of Housing, which is also known as HCD, which will be responsible for certifying our housing element. There was absolutely not enough time for our committee to review it. It was well over 200 pages, so we're planning on getting together probably next month to talk about it. But I have to tell you all that after all of our discussions at various commission meetings and council meetings, the city did listen to our requests. And we now have an increase of affordable housing opportunities in high resource areas. We have a minimum density that increased from 18 to 30. We have an increase in the number of lower income units in high resource areas from 100 to at least 750. They're planning on zoning Moffett Park for 20%. Let's see, let me make sure I get this right. For 20% affordable to lower income households, which is a real huge plus for all of us. So, and one last thing, in general, the city staff listened to us and pulled in their deadlines on their program. So I want to give a heartfelt thanks to all of you at Livable Sunnyvale that helped to make this happen, because if it wasn't for our fortitude, this would not work. We will be getting our results from HCD in 60 days, so sometime probably mid to late July. We'll hear if we too can be added to the certified list. So thank you.
So to stay a little bit with housing, we'll move on to the Moffett Park specific plan, and Gail Rubino, one of our board members, is also going to give an update.
Hi. Well, 4 years and some months. The Moffett Park plan is before the Planning Commission, probably for the last time, unless something really drastic happens. And that's on Monday. I believe that's the 12th. I could be wrong on the date. And there's 1,000. Well, if you guys want to read it, if you go to the city website and look for meetings and go to the Planning Commission, there's a big package. It's 1,000. It's 1,000 pages, not all of which is Moffett, but a lot of it. And the things that Livable Sunnyvale has talked about for a long time are community benefits. And the city is changing some of those. Infrastructure. The big thing there on schools is there will be a community benefit to transfer development rights because Moffett Park is not a suitable location for a school, but they can transfer the rights to another place in the city. We did a lot on implementation actions, and the city did not listen to any of them, so those are down. On the performance metrics, which we also talked about, that has no change. On mobility, that has only changed a little bit. One of the things we recommended that's kind of cool is to make sure where there's public space, there needs to be bathrooms and water fountains. Open space, that's a very big area, and the city is trying to figure out how to do it. But the developers who have to give up their open space are very opposed to it, because if you have a building that's X size and the city wants to take 50% of that lot for a park or open space, that's a problem, because then the developer can't build as big a building. So there's one of the interesting things on this Moffett Park thing, very different than the housing element, because developers are very much involved in it, is it's a balancing act between what you can do and what's feasible with all of the parties. So there's a lot of stakeholder problems. There is 500,000 square feet allocated to retail and retail services. And one of the planning commissioners, Carol Weiss, is asking that the city redefine retail to be broader. And transportation, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of was that there's transportation for kids to get to school. And the plan says that the VTA is going to have to work on that. So that's my wrap up. If anyone else has any comments on it, please speak now. But I think it's going to be a very long meeting on Monday, but it should be extraordinarily interesting. And there's public comment all along the way. Usually, at some points, there's public comment. That's my wrap up. Thanks.
So also more housing stuff. Want to appreciate and congratulate the County Board of Supervisors. They voted unanimously to co-sponsor the Home Key application with Life Moves. That's the Lawrence and Benton project. That's something that, we had meetings about, we sent letters, so it's huge. So that's coming down the pike. We just, hopefully that funding will get approved and it'll go forward. Another announcement is last month we had our new board elections, and we just have some, I just wanted to highlight some of the positions. So Agnes Veith and Chuck Fraley are vice chairs. Leah is going to be our secretary. Julia has stepped down as a board member, but she's going to stay on as treasurer. Membership is Paulina. Communications is Mike and Angus. And Gail is also currently still on our board. So we have one board position open that we are hunting around for. So if you know somebody. My last announcement is about the water bill. So you probably saw in your water bill if you are a homeowner or an apartment, I'm not positive. If you live in a multifamily, I'm not positive you got one, but it's a notice of public hearing, proposed utility rates for fiscal 2023-24. There was two increases in the water administrative fees that I just wanted to highlight. And one of them is called administrative fee for processing delinquent accounts which qualify for shutoff, and also restoring water service once all unpaid amounts of delinquent accounts have been paid 8 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. So basically, in a nutshell, if your water gets cut off because you can't afford to pay, to get it reinstated, restored, you pay right now $50 and $50. Those two items are $50. They're looking to increase it to $55 for each item. So I have a form letter that I will share with the members if you're interested in protesting this increased fee. My feeling is if you couldn't pay the water bill, to be burdened with extra fees is not fair. So I will share that with our members and whatever. You have to send a letter that has your address on it, or you can speak at council on Tuesday, June 27th at 7 p.m. The other announcements, I wanted to have Jordan Grimes from Greenbelt just share a quick update of what's going on at Greenbelt. So thank you, Jordan.
Sure. Thanks so much, Angela. Always fun to be here with you guys. Hey, Livable Sunnyvale. I know many of you, haven't met some of you, but great to be here, and thanks for allowing me some time to speak tonight. Greenbelt is doing quite a bit of work these days in the South Bay, not as much in Sunnyvale, because Sunnyvale tends to be more on the right track than other jurisdictions, but we are involved in the Sunnyvale housing element. We did meet with the State Department of Housing and Community Development specifically about the Sunnyvale housing element in regard to the city's parks fee. Some of you may not know, but the Sunnyvale parks fee is actually a pretty big impediment to building multifamily housing in the city of Sunnyvale. The fee ranges from $72,000 per unit to $110,000 per unit. That's very, very high when you compare to neighboring jurisdictions. Mountain View, which is also high, is in the $50,000 range. But many other jurisdictions, places like Redwood City, Santa Clara, other jurisdictions are much more in line with the $25,000 to $30,000 range. So it's a big difference. And that's just the parks fee. Then you have to add on, all the other things. And all of a sudden it starts becoming very clear why it's so costly to build housing. So we did have that meeting with HCD. We've communicated those concerns to staff as well. And are continuing work on the housing element. So we will see where that goes. In addition to the Sunnyvale housing element, we're also working on housing elements in San Jose, Mountain View, which, as Angela mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, was just approved by the state of California, which is exciting. Hopefully, Sunnyvale will meet that same designation this summer. Fingers crossed. We're also working on the Santa Clara County housing element. We are very excited because earlier in the process, the county previously was planning to put all of the sort of housing growth in the unincorporated areas near Gilroy and San Martin, and essentially increase exurban and suburban sprawl. They have, through advocacy from ourselves and other organizations, have instead looked to place growth at the Pleasant Hills Golf Course in East San Jose, which is a defunct golf course that has not been used for many years. So that visioning process is beginning, and we're working quite a bit on that. In addition, Greenbelt is also getting ready to kick off a new climate resilience project in the Gilroy area. really focused on working with lower income communities, the Latino community in Gilroy, to assess their needs around climate resilience, and help them achieve those things. And then finally, state legislation. Greenbelt is a big supporter of Senate Bill 423, which is Senator Scott Wiener's effort to streamline multifamily affordable housing development based on whether or not a city has met their housing goals. That bill passed out of the California Senate by a vote of 29-5 last week. We're very excited to see that pass and are continuing to work with local assembly members and community groups on that bill. Yeah, I think that's it for the big things. We're working on a number of big projects around the region. I just cover the South Bay, but those are I think our big ticket items for Santa Clara County. And I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions, housing related, sustainability related. Always a treat to be here with this community.
Thank you, Jordan. People want to put their questions in the chat. I've also put the water bill verbiage and the housing element link to HCD in the chat.
Oh, and I will just say thank you to everyone who sent. We were also very involved on the Benton Street project, the interim housing proposal, working with Santa Clara Housing Advocates, a new group that has spun up on that project. Very excited to see that pass. As some may remember, there was a previous home key proposal in 2021, the White Oaks project, that did not pass, and it is truly, I believe, because of the community support this time around that didn't exist last time, that the city council and the county approved this project. So thank you to everyone here who sent letters, and also to the folks here who have helped get the Santa Clara Housing Advocates group set up. You're all wonderful, and we appreciate you.
Thanks, Jordan. Let's see. I forgot what I was going to say. Any other questions or announcements from anyone on Zoom or in the room? Oh.
Hi. We have a happy hour coming up, joint with South Bay Yimby on June 10th. That should be Saturday coming up in the next 3 days or so. And that will be in downtown Sunnyvale at the Metro City Bar and Restaurant from 2 to 4 p.m. Hopefully we can see everybody there. Unfortunately, we are not sponsoring this with money from our own pocket, so everyone's pay as you go. Hopefully we can get about 20 to 30 people there. This should be fun.
Thank you. Yes, come join. Oh, Martin's got something.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that obviously the Moffett Park specific plan is the item that everyone's kind of super excited about for Monday's Planning Commission hearing, but the item before that is objective design standards for multifamily housing, and that is actually very important, and I think so if people are interested in that, that will be actually up before the Moffett Park specific plan, and people are welcome to give comment, etc. Some items like that. If you're not familiar, under state law, multifamily developments can only be denied for and not meeting specific objective design standards. We don't have discretion to deny them for kind of subjective reasons. And the way the code is currently written, it says guidelines. They're not, so a lot of it's not actually enforceable. And the purpose of the objective design standards process is to have standards that are both flexible enough for developers to not kind of straitjacket developers, while at the same time providing something that is enforceable and that the city can enforce against new developments. And there are obviously some wrinkles to that under various state laws, but anyway, it is important. It is interesting. So if you're coming to come for the Moffett Parks. Well, this is the reverse order, but come for the Moffett Park specific plan, stay for the objective design standards, except reverse because of how the agenda is scheduled.
That's Monday at 7? Is it 7?
Yep.
Okay, Monday at 7. Okay. Seeing no other announcements, we will move to our first speaker, Isabel, and Agnes is going to introduce her.
Well, I'm really happy to introduce Isabel, and I'm afraid I'm going to have a hard time with your name. Jubes Flamerich. I'm so sorry, but I meant Isabel during the most recent Leadership Sunnyvale class, of which we just had our graduation on Friday. So yay, many of us in this room that have gone through that program recently and those that have gone through years ago. So Isabel is the mother of 2 bright, fun, and inquisitive teenage boys. She immigrated from with her husband to the Bay Area over 25 years ago as co-founder of a tech company. Going through many changes led Isabel to her new role on the Board of Education. Isabel earned her bachelor's degree in architecture from the Universidad Central de Venezuela and a master's in architecture and environmental design from UC Berkeley School of Architecture, as well as a computer analyst programming minor from the Universidad Jose Maria Vargas. This education, along with other credentials, has helped Elizabeth build and implement her love and knowledge of climate awareness through design and social involvement. For many years, Isabel has worked designing buildings and advocating for a greener world, both locally and abroad. She has designed residential, commercial, civic, hospitality, and industrial buildings and worked as a green building consultant and green building rater. Isabel is currently an associate instructor in architecture at West Valley City College. Committed to sustainable principles, Isabel advocates for a healthier, natural, and built environment because healthy buildings make healthy people, and a healthy environment encourages better education and a sustainable world, helping us all to thrive for generations to come. In parallel, not that this is not enough, Isabel works to showcase the academic achievements of minorities to inspire higher goals in education for all, producing podcasts and radio shows from Stanford University Radio, always interested in bilingual and multicultural committees. Over the past few years, Isabel has been able to work directly as part of the Sunnyvale School Board of Education, the California Latino School Board Association, as well as other volunteer opportunities to advocate for local unhoused families. So Isabel, it's all yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to talk to you about our project that we presented last week on Leadership Sunnyvale. It has been a project that, an issue that came up for me and Bridget during the pandemic. We had quite a few families with children living in our actual shelter. This is a shelter that was supposed to be a temporary shelter for winter or the rainy months, and it wasn't really supposed to be for families. It is what is called congregate setting, but it has also many good things. That is a completely open shelter, is a low barrier, so it doesn't matter what problems you're having with addiction or mental health or whatever, they're gonna take you and they're gonna offer you a place to stay, which is great for way too many people that maybe cannot go to a place that has, more rules, or you need to be sober or whatever to be here. But it doesn't make it a healthy place for family with kids, which different ages, and it's just not safe and healthy. So this was a situation that came start raising and raising, and every time we kept duplicating, and next year we have 5, and now we have few months later, we have 10. Now we have 36 children or something like that living in that environment. So when we saw that this was just racing, we started to investigate. And by the time we started in Leadership Sunnyvale, it sounded like a perfect project to raise awareness, bring more people to this, and start working with us, which was great. So the issue was how to improve the local living conditions and on-site services for unhoused families, a place that need to be culturally right, a place that need to be perfect for children, a good environment. And so we started to investigate and get deeper into what's going on and why it's important a child environment in the future and in their development. And pretty much it was going to be our future, because they are our future. If they are not doing well, sooner or later, we won't be doing well either. So the next video is very refreshing. The next slide has a short video that it explains something that is called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and how important it is the development of every child, that is not only depending of your DNA or the things that you were brought when you were born, but it's also about how is your environment when you grow up, and all the opportunities you are given. And this is for us in the board and in the district. We know that it's important. We know we keep hearing about all sort of researchers that are talking to us and telling us it's not about the rich kids because they have a more opportunity. It's not only because of that. It's because every child has a potential depending on the environment. If we give a good environment and a good education to any kid, they will do okay. If they don't do okay, it's because, well, we wasted those years and those opportunities, and it's important to give it to everybody. So, yes, we can stop for a few minutes and listen to that. Yes, the video.
Experiences early in life are important building blocks for the developing brain. Genes, nature, are like the blueprint. They provide the basic framework for brain development. However, genes do not design the brain completely. Environmental influences, nurture, fine-tune how the brain works by shaping which brain connections get used. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent, whereas ones that do not get much use fade away. Together, genes and the environment build the foundation for all future development. Safe, stable, and nurturing relationships early in life lead to healthy development. But children's brains capture other experiences as well, stressful events. However, not all stress is bad. Positive stress involves normal childhood experiences, like starting daycare or meeting a new person for the first time. This stress is essential for healthy development because it helps children develop coping skills and confidence. But when stress is frequent, chronic, and uncontrolled, it is toxic to children, especially when they do not have a caregiver to provide support or buffer the stress. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, such as abuse, neglect, exposure to intimate partner violence, parental depression or addiction, and poverty, are toxic stressors which could lead to
Yeah, I gotta try that again. Let's hold on here. Let's try this again.
A child's experiences early in life are important building blocks for the developing brain. Genes, nature, are like the blueprint. They provide the basic framework for brain development. However, genes do not design the brain completely. Environmental influences, nurture, fine-tune how the brain works by shaping which brain connections get used. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent, whereas ones that do not get much use fade away. Together, genes and
I'm having trouble sharing this. Let's see if I can, I think I've got so much on here. Maybe somebody else can share. I just put it in the chat, so I don't know if someone else has better capability to share. I can try again. Well, let's see here. Let me see if this one might go faster. Let's see. Where's my... I'm going to try to do it on this one. Can you share that? Sorry for the delay. My computer was having a hard time doing it. Let's see if, oh, she's not. This computer needs to be a host.
If you're the host, you can say share session.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why that's not working. Yeah, I'm not host.
Click on the little arrow there, and then multiple participants. And now you can do it. And share with sound.
When you go to the Zoom, can you do it like up there and at the bottom? And you share. That's what I'm gonna do. Oh, share sound, it said. It was under more. Share sound.
Increased risk-taking behavior such as drinking and substance use, and increased risk of disease, disability, and social problems later in life. The question is, how do adverse childhood experiences impact a lifelong development? One of the most important systems in our body is our stress system. It's activated when we experience stress. We become alert, our heart rate increases, and so do our stress hormone levels, cortisol and adrenaline. A child's experiences early in life are what is known as fight or flight. A short period of time after the stress is over, or if a child receives support from a caregiver, the stress response turns off and the body returns to a normal state. Adverse childhood experiences create stress responses that stay active, and without the support of a caregiver, the system has difficulty shutting off completely. Building blocks for the constant and prolonged activation can affect immune system functioning and increase the chances of sickness, infection, and disease. Prolonged activation of stress hormones is also toxic to the brain. Certain areas of the brain are more vulnerable to toxic stress, including the executive center or the brain's control center, an area important for solving complex problems, attention, reasoning, impulsivity, inhibition, and learning. A second area is the emotional center, the brain's alarm system, which is involved in processing and interpreting emotions and the ability to control impulses. The third area is the memory and learning center, the brain's filing cabinet, which plays a major role in learning and the formation and retrieval of memories. Science shows that adverse childhood experiences impact all of these brain centers. Behaviorally, what we begin to see is emotional distress, poor emotion regulation, greater impulsivity, learning difficulties, and physical and mental health problems. More recently, science has begun to look at how ACEs cause changes in gene expression through a process called epigenetics, which helps us understand how nature and nurture interact. Epigenetics causes changes in the way genes work without changing the DNA code itself. This occurs through chemical changes influencing how the code is used. In other words, genes are like the hardware in a computer. ACEs determine the boundaries of what is can impact social, emotional, and we need an operating system to tell the hardware what to do, such as epigenetics is like the operating system directing the function of a gene's disability and social problems later in life. The genes we are born with. The question is, we have how do adverse childhood experiences impact exercise, smoking, stressors, and relationships all affect our biology. Adverse childhood experiences are associated with epigenetic changes related to stress, brain development, cognition, and systems associated with mental and physical health. Changes that happen early in brain development are more likely to be enduring and are possibly passed on to future generations as well. The good news is that
All right, try again. I think I just done.
How about now? It works. Okay. So some of the things we did, we went and researched what will be, the ideal, what is around what people do, and we found that there are many different places inside our county that have, very good facilities that are they have a set of services for these families. They have places for little kids, they have after school areas, they have psychologists, they have social workers, they have places where they help the parents to get out of the situation, but they also take care of the children. And then these kind of places, they go and then they take they get in contact with the schools and the school social workers, and they work together to make sure that the kids don't lag back, that the kids don't have repercussions in their mental health. And they get them go throughout this whole methodology that they have so they can get out of the situation. If it's a very traumatic situation for an adult, for a kid is just life-changing pretty much. Is something that is devastating, and it's going to be devastating for many years to come. So we need to make it as painless as possible, and and give enough help to everybody in the family in order to get that family out and to get these kids, on mark as possible. So one of the things that normally happens is that if you have a child or a family in this situation, they tend to let them, so the kid in theory doesn't get as traumatized. They tend to get them as close as possible to the school or to the place where they were. But the kids in Sunnyvale, in order to stay close to their family or friends or wherever they are, then they stay in this congregated place instead of going to any other one in San Jose or any other place in Santa Clara. So that's a problem. That's an issue. Why don't we have one service as it should? So the next one is a little bit more strategies, tactics, and solutions. If you go back again, so during the leadership, we made a list of the things that we should look for, the places. What are the needs of the space, what are the needs of the services, family need, what we saw that might work. And then we also made a list of who is supporting those places, who should we ask, and how should we, push for this. Most of these places tend to be in association with the county, but there is also a partnership with the cities and a partnership sometimes with some nonprofit organizations. So we've been talking with the Board of Supervisors for the county. They passed a resolution for a study on first improving the existing one and giving them more resources and children-oriented spaces. They also are studying how to change the situation and actually have one of these family-oriented places for kids in the city or very close to our city. And then we've been pushing and talking with our city council, and they did also prioritize this issue. They also have, a new person for that they are hiring for homelessness in general. But they also prioritize the issue of the family shelter. So this should be a place that is specific and safe for families with children and for families that, any type of families with any age of children. There are some of these places that they even get, they get the kids go after they turn 18 if they were inside the shelter before that, and they even give them help to their families. Because some of the things that happen around in the area, and not in the places we saw, but we know of some other places where, for example, the boys that are teen, after they are 13-year-old, they cannot stay with their families and they need to go to a different place. And that's just unacceptable and horrible. Places where they throw them out as soon as they turn 18. And, it's just 1 or 2 days of difference is the same kid, and it shouldn't be a problem. But again, because these are also places that have rules, and families need to be following the rules. It's made me not very attractive to everybody. So, but this is a problem that we need to approach and we need to follow for the kids. A lot of times we know that the family is going through one of these crises because the teachers come to, come to the principal and they say, well, something is going on. And there is just no way of really knowing because the families don't, are ashamed or the children are ashamed. But you can see them on the behavior of the kid or if the kid is too tired. And there are many things that the teachers can catch and tell, hey, something's going on. They go and see what's happening and they may, realize that, oh, they've been living in their car for weeks now, or they may have to go to a neighbor and they're in a very, very big families, 2 or 3 families in one little apartment, and they are, kind of the coach hopping from one place to another. So these places, the ones that we actually see going to the shelter, is just one number. There is, for us, no real way to know exactly how many families and how many kids are in our district, in your city, your neighbors, living in cars or living in other people's couches. So with a better place, with a full place, with all the services and spaces, this problem will be a minor area and it will be a place to start. And let's see, I think that's pretty much. Yeah, so our solution will be a first immediate short-term solution that is to enhance and improve the place where the kids are right now. But of course, the longer-term solution will be a consolidated space with services for families, families only, including when you have one of the parents, even if it's a dad, or even if they are already teenagers, or 1 or 2 parent families. And I think that's the next one is probably the closing. Yes. So yeah, we like that. We thought that the true measure of any society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. And to remember that what we do to our children today is coming back to us in few years, in nothing. So it's up to us what kind of adults we want in 10 years as a neighbor, what kind of education, what kind of person we want to be living next to us in 10 years. We want a great, professional, happy person with no mental issues, or we want somebody who is very difficult, has a very difficult life and, have very difficult consequences. So this is everybody's problem, it's our issue. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I wanted to share, there's a question in the chat, and it is, these age limits sound like you are talking about foster care. Is that correct?
No, that's one of them. Foster cares, normally they do have housing. This is about families who are going through homelessness.
Does anybody in the room have questions? I can certainly share the mic. Oh, hang on a sec. We have another one. No, that's it. That was the one. And any questions? Colleen, you have a question?
I have a question. So are you saying some shelters limit the age of children that can be there? Or what about extended family members? Like grandparents, they're affected, that usually live with the families that become homeless. Thank you.
Yes, some shelters limit the age of the children that can be there, even if they are male mostly. They don't like kids over, I think, when they turn 14, sometimes they want to send them somewhere else. And, that then make the whole family leave most of the time, or they prefer leaving their cars.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so now I get to introduce our next speaker. So our next speaker is Peggy Brewster, and she has lived in Sunnyvale for over 13 years. She was a middle and elementary school teacher before COVID, but did not return to the classroom in fall of 2020 so she could care for her young children during the pandemic. A silver lining of COVID was that Peggy enrolled her son in the Snail Neighborhood Public School, Bishop Elementary, instead of taking him to attend school where she taught in Mountain View. It was a great opportunity to become involved in Sunnyvale Public Schools. She's a regular volunteer and current chair of the school site council at Bishop. Peggy joined the board of the Sunnyvale Education Foundation in early 2021 because she is passionate about equity and working to close opportunity, language, and learning gaps in socioeconomically disadvantaged families within Sunnyvale. SEF has representatives from all 10 Sunnyvale school districts, SSD schools, and through these connections and in her role as SEF grants administrator, she gained a broad perspective of the district across school sites. While there are plenty of educational equity advocacy opportunities at SSD, learning about the closure of Sunnyvale High School in 1981 sparked her interest in the Fremont Union High School District, also known as, we know, FUHSD. And Margaret can certainly talk about that school closure. No, just because you always bring it up, which is a good thing to bring up. Out of that spark grew Sunnyvale for Equity in Education, also known as SEE. The group first met with FUHSD administrators and trustees in January 2023. Since then, SEE has advocated for equitable access and quality of education for students in North Sunnyvale. There are now over 150 members of the SEE Google group. Peggy is eager to share about Sunnyvale for Equity in Education and hopes to partner with Livable Sunnyvale, which we would like, to improve lives and education for Sunnyvale families. So Peggy, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Agnes. Okay, where am I looking? Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, nice to meet you all. I've met some of you. Good to see you all here. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak. So Agnes included the reason why I kind of dove into the Sunnyvale community was because of COVID. So I'm strangely thankful for what this pandemic has done for my opportunities in terms of being part of the Sunnyvale community. So I would like to talk a little bit about our group and how we came to be. So I've been looking through SEF at kind of the differences between the schools at the Sunnyvale School District. And I was at Bishop, or my son, we are at Bishop. My son is just finished second grade today at Bishop. And it is considered the school of highest need. So that means that we had the largest population of economically disadvantaged students, as well as the most language learners. So that was already kind of in my head. There's a lot of differences amongst the 8 elementary schools especially. But then when I heard that we used to have a neighborhood school that was just 10 minutes away from my house, which is Fremont, which I'll show you in the next slide, Sunnyvale High School right there. It really, really upset me, honestly. It outraged me that, you know, instead of our children walking to school, now we have to figure out a way to get them, well, it'll be like 10 years before he graduates high school, but get a way to get to school every single day. And we are not even in the northernmost part of the school district boundaries. I'm in the Snail neighborhood. There's a whole nother zip code above me. So I want to kind of couch the situation in the context, next slide please, of the elementary school districts and the Sunnyvale School District. So there are other elementary schools that also feed into, that also have students that in Sunnyvale, but I'm speaking specifically about the Sunnyvale School District. And so I put in green all of the elementary schools, and you can see like south of El Camino, which is in blue, we have Cumberland and Cherry Chase, and just north on the west side, we have Vargas and Ellis over there. Up further north, we have Bishop and San Miguel. And that purple circle is Columbia Middle School. And then up north, we have Lakewood and Fairwood. And SMS Sunnyvale Middle School is also south of El Camino Real. So with that context, next slide, please, and looking at Sunnyvale High School, we see that when we're looking at the boundaries of the Fremont Union High School District, which is what this map represents, the entire map represents the entire boundaries of the school district, we see that Sunnyvale High School was a great neighborhood school location, and that was closed in 1981 after the passing of Prop 13. And they decided that they needed to close one of the schools. There were 6 at the time, and there were many conversations. We've asked for all the board meeting minutes at that time, the archive minutes. There were many conversations about which schools to close. There were many communities from the southern schools that spoke up and said, not our school, not our school. There are many communities that said that they didn't want to have students from other schools come in and kind of, I try to be a little delicate. I get a little sensitive about reading the board minutes because they make me very angry. They talk about how it's going to be difficult. The board members are talking about it's going to be difficult to have those students come so far away. We'll have to make sure that they have great transportation going forward. And other board members wondered, maybe it's going to make it hard for some of those students up north to graduate. And they all agreed. And then they also unanimously voted to close Sunnyvale High School. So this is our situation right now. I've put in the rankings as well. And school rankings are tricky, and they're not exactly a great measurement of a school's quality. In many ways, they are a measurement of the communities, of the socioeconomic richness of a community. And there's a really great article that's called "How Great Schools Steers You Towards Wider and More Affluent Schools." And so we see in the southernmost part of our district, Lynbrook and Monte Vista, they are really solidly in the top part of the California schools, number 1 and 2 in the Fremont Union High School District, and 11 and 14 in California. As you move north, they fall in ranking. So Cupertino ranked 3rd, 40th in California. Homestead still solidly in the top 100 in California. Number 4 in Fremont Union High School District. And finally, the northernmost school is ranked number 5 and number 426 in California. So when we bring this up, when we first brought this up to the district, we met on January 13th with the superintendent and a few of the other leadership admin, as well as 2 of the trustees. And then we had about 20 people join us, just community members that we had been talking to. When we brought that up, the response was, well, you know, they are all still in the top 25%. So that was the response, because we were asking about, you know, this differential. What about this differential? So we know that north to south, that there are very large differences in not only the quality of the school, quality, I'm using my quotation marks because it's not, you know, it's this measurement of quality, but we know that all of this closing has affected our community, and these decisions that were made fall along geographic, clearly, lines, classist lines, racist lines. Right now in Lynbrook High School, there's, if you look at Zillow, there is a property that is going for $4.2 million. And in the Fremont High School area, there is currently a mobile home that's going for $490,000. So as we go north to south, we see less money and less access to education. And that's something that we care deeply about and we want to change. Let me go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is the SARC, this is like the report card for schools. And it shows us the percentage of, well, it tells us so much, but I brought out the language learner percentages, the low socioeconomic status percentages, Hispanic Latino percentages, and then also these outcomes of dropout and chronic absenteeism. And you can see that at Fremont High School, about over one third of the students are considered low socioeconomic status, and it's just 7% at Monte Vista. You can see that dropout and absenteeism is much higher at Fremont High School versus the other schools. Next slide, please. I also wanted to look at the CASP score. So this is like levels of proficiency, at proficiency, or exceeding proficiency. And we're looking at language arts, math, and science. So if we're just looking at math in red, we'll see that at Lindbergh High School, they have 94% of their graduating, this isn't graduating, this is their juniors, of their juniors are meeting or exceeding standards in math. And at Fremont, it's just 42%. If we look at language arts, it is 63% meeting or exceeding at Fremont and 95% at Lindbergh. So we see very, very large differences between the schools within the same district. So we came together, a bunch of us community members, we just started talking about this. We first wanted to comment on the Moffett Park specific plan about having a high school up there. But we also knew that that wasn't a suitable place for a high school, but it did bring us into this conversation, you know, and we realized that 42 years now since this closure of Sunnyvale High School, our community in North Sunnyvale has been historically marginalized, has been disadvantaged, and this has been a burden that we have been bearing, you know, for 4 decades now. So we want to make a change. We have gone to the district, we started meeting with them, and we have some advocacy goals around that. Next slide, please. And I'm going to go into each of these specifically. So short term, we're talking about better transportation from Fremont and Homestead High School, from the north part of Sunnyvale to those schools. We're talking about representation, so having a school board trustee from that area representing directly that area. Right now it's an at-large district, and we want to make it you know, by district area trustees. So we want a district, and then also for long-term, we'd like a new high school up in the area where there is the areas we have the most population growth. So in North Sunnyvale, we have so much housing planning coming. Enrollment is down everywhere, and they will cite that as a reason that we should not be even looking at building a new high school. But the enrollment is so low down in Monte Vista that they're, to keep the doors open, they are pulling students from Cupertino to keep those doors open. So low in at Monte Vista, so that's Lindbergh and Cupertino, so low at Monte Vista that they're looking at how to bring students from Homestead into that school to keep the doors open. We do need to be looking at a new school for our students, and we need to start now. It's already been 4 decades, but we see a lot of population growth, and we're not seeing that kind of growth in Cupertino. Next slide, please. By the way, I made these slides with the hope that maybe you guys would really want to, like, for example, read the minutes and the presentation. So there are links, and I'm happy to share the whole presentation. Also, if you want to, like, join our mailing list, there's a whole drive full of information that has, you know, those archived board minutes that will kind of make your blood boil, perhaps a lot of newspaper articles, a lot of the data we've been pulling. So in terms of the new school, our long-term advocacy goal, When we first contacted the superintendent, Graham Clark, in October of 22, just a few months ago, we were asking about, what about a high school up here in North Sunnyvale? And at first, when he got a few emails, he was asking, oh, do you want to meet? Why don't you come on in and meet? And then I think there were too many emails. And so, the admin got back to us and said, we're actually looking into this, and we would like to have a study issue, a bigger meeting with you later. So looking at what they were doing, they actually hired a consultant, and then they presented on January 30th a presentation about opening a new high school, a new comprehensive high school in North Sunnyvale. So 2 different options were presented, either taking the King's Academy, which is the site of Sunnyvale High School right now, and still owned by that high school district. So taking the King's Academy back and making it a high school again, a public high school, or finding a new location somewhere in North Sunnyvale and building a new comprehensive high school there. So if you were to look at the presentation, you'll see all of the data that they brought in, the costs of building, the amount of property they would need. And for both of those 2 scenarios, they told us that it would be over $500 million. And then at that same meeting, I think we had like 5 out of 7 of the council members are either on the phone or, actually in there, and a bunch of us community members there, we said, well, you still need it. The need is here. We can't just push it off because there's not enough money. And I am of the belief that if money's a problem, if that's the only problem, then we'll have to get creative about that. And we started having some conversations about that. So still working on this long-term goal. I would love to have conversations with anyone, everybody. I'd actually like to have like a bigger forum to talk about some of the considerations. Next slide, please. So let's talk about representation. So we've been, we asked for movement towards a districted, towards districting, much like Sunnyvale School District did and much like the city did recently. And they presented about that, and we've actually had them pass a resolution to start that process, and that happened on March 3rd. There was an unfortunate death. Roy Rockland passed away. He was one of the trustees. And so they had to kind of shift attention to filling that vacancy. So next slide, please. So this is the district. There have never ever been trustees from the northernmost part of Sunnyvale, so 94089 or 94085. There have only been 2 trustees from north of El Camino, and the last one finished her term in 1994. So all of the trustees are now kind of coming towards this, mostly 95014, so Cupertino, and 94087, which is just south of El Camino. So we asked for this list of trustees by zip code. I was just wondering this as we were looking into this trustee appointment process, and realizing that it's been forever. It's been since they started keeping track. So this is about the 1960s that they started keeping track of zip codes. We've never had representation directly from North Sunnyvale. So we have a candidate. We currently have a candidate. We had a candidate for this appointment, and her name is Allison Joe. Next slide, please. And we were there asking for representation. Allison is a parent at San Miguel. So San Miguel is a really, really unique school in the Sunnyvale School District. It is one of the Title I schools, but it also has this very rich community engagement that we don't see at Bishop. It's not at Lakewood. It's not at Vargas, you know. So it's unique because they have built this community from grassroots, kind of. They built it together. Allison and Elsa Nunez, they built the PTA together. There's a real interest in honoring culture instead of having a school that puts education out upon people. It's like, well, how can we build education together? How can we be respectful of cultures that are represented here? How can we have these conversations? And so Allison has been working with integrating schools with that mindset for the past 7 or 8 years now. And she has learned to speak Spanish fluently. She has this amazing rapport with the community, and they showed up. I've only met her recently, and she is this wonderful energy, and you hear this kind of passion that she has for education and for equity and for having our kids together and being with other kids and learning different cultures. And so they had this appointment process, and on May 1st, there were a total of 8 different applicants that came in, and they did interviews in front of the public. And then they narrowed it down to 3, and with like this ranked choice process. And Allison actually was the first, ranked first. And then 1 week later, it was the final 3, and they did, again, public interviews. And on both of those nights, we showed up in mass. The group showed up in mass. This isn't actually all of us, but this is some of us. On May 8th, we took up half the room, and many of us spoke. We stood up when other people were speaking. For the first time ever, the district provided translation in Spanish by using headsets. And yet, after many hours of deliberation, they still chose a former mayor of Cupertino, a white man, an older man, and not somebody who could represent the voice of Sunnyvale. And that's frustrating for so many reasons. When you have the students coming there and saying, you know, transportation, like the other day, we actually had this student coming, speaking in Spanish. The other day, I was getting onto the bus, and a man came over and pulled a knife on a woman, and then they told us all to go home, and we couldn't go to school. But thankfully, my brother was still home, so he could take me to school, and I was 2 hours late. So we had students coming with this testimony, giving this translation. We have parents coming, just talking about transportation, saying, you know, we really want our students to participate in extracurriculars, but they can't. So they just go to school, come back from school, stay home, because they have 6 miles between our school, between where we live and the school, and they can't go back and forth. We don't have that capacity. There are other parents that are a little more privileged, perhaps, and they can shuttle their kids back and forth. But that's having a dedicated parent that can drive back and forth, and it could be like 2.5 hours if you're going back and forth across town. So we all spoke of this. We spoke of the need to be represented, and they still chose the wrong guy. So next slide, please. Unfortunately, we're not going to have somebody at the dais that during the districting process, and that's something that I would really like to ask the community to contribute in to help us make sure that this is a really robust community effort and that we still are heard, are still represented, even though we won't have somebody directly speaking for our population of Spanish-speaking families. We do need to be vocal, and I would really like to push the district to do more than the minimum required for the districting process and provide those kind of maps that the city of Sunnyvale did, where we could do interactive map drawings and really have some education around this process. I've talked to Jackie Guzman at the city, and she said that she's happy to present to our community or to anybody about what Sunnyvale did and that process. and she needs to be invited by the high school district to do that. We're working on that. So this is the layout of where the trustees live right now. Rod Sinks, who is the appointee, is that furthest south green triangle. Everybody else is, there's 3 in 95014 and 2 that are in Sunnyvale, but just south of El Camino. So they are moving towards districting. We'll see if that's done by the November 24 elections, which is what they've indicated. We'll have to see. Okay, next slide, please. So in terms of representation, we are doing the districting process, or working on the districting process. We are working on building community capacity. We've been talking with like the Latina Coalition and South Bay Labor. You know, like I'm standing here representing Sunnyvale for Equity in Education, and it's me and a lot of white women, right? And I feel like I have this extreme privilege, and I am not speaking for those people that are not represented. I realize that. And I think about it all the time, you know? And it cannot be like white and Asian people speaking for, oh, you know, Hispanics need representation. So we do need to build community. And I was frustrated when I was having a long conversation with Mr. Sinks between the 2 appointments. When I was telling him about our community, and he kind of equated North Sunnyvale community to, you know, some of the other communities that he's helped. So he started talking about Oakland and East San Jose, and you know, it was kind of a disappointing conversation at that moment, because I was asking about how do we build community capacity, you know, if people don't have that extra time because they're working extra jobs, because they're trying to put food on the table. And he said that we could bribe them with donuts and coffee to get them to come. And no, that was not a joke. That was his response to me. And so I was disappointed in this process, but Rod did tell me what he knows about schools. He doesn't know about how schools run and, you know, academics and stuff, but he does know, and I'm putting this out right now, that how to find money for schools, because he can do large projects. So I'm really hoping that we can leverage this relationship that we have with him, and maybe we can get him to help us find money and a location for a school up here. And so we need to field some candidates too. We're gonna have, after the district is drawn, the districts are drawn, we'll probably have 2 different districts up north of Sunnyvale, and we need to build those candidates, and we're in that process right now. So let me get to the short-term advocacy goal. We've made a lot of progress in this. This is transportation. So we worked together with the city council. This is maybe March or something, to propose a study issue to look into transportation for like specifically shuttles for high school students from North Sunnyvale to Fremont High School and Homestead High School. And then we added in shuttles and other transportation options. And it was co-sponsored by all of the council members. But then when it came back, it was recommended to be deferred by the city. So we got in there, we were at the city council a lot, and having lots of conversations. And we advocated for that study issue to be ranked #1 in DPW. And so that made the line for the budget, thankfully. So we are continuing with that study issue. But we also know that that's not going to solve anything. In fact, some of the council members I spoke to were kind of reluctant to spend Sunnyvale City money in this way, because it's kind of a problem that the high school district inflicted, right? And also should be taken care of, but they have not been doing that for 42 years. So I think our community really came together in a really strong way to say, you know, we do need to pay attention to our students. we do need to care about them. And if you, the district, aren't necessarily looking at that or caring about that, then, you know, let's work together and let's make sure that this is happening. Next slide, please. This is actually something that the Fremont Union High School District provided. These are the two boundaries for Fremont High School and Homestead High School. And it's just showing the numbers of students and the zip codes where they're coming from to get to the two schools. You'll see Fremont High School, there's kind of a, I don't know if you can see it. There's like a little house icon down there in the pink spot, and then Homestead is in the blue spot. So we do have many, many hundreds of students that are coming from the north part. We started a survey. Oh, that's okay, no problem. Yeah, I think the one, go back, next slide, please. So we started a survey when we realized that transportation was such an issue. And and it was just asking, you know, what's your experience like? Was for parents to complete or students to complete or recent graduates to complete. And that survey is still actually open, so if anybody would like to continue answering those questions, we would like to continue. We would love to continue collecting the data. So far, we have about 110 responses. We asked for a community meeting. Next slide, please. Because we know that the study issue of running shuttles, that's going to take a long time, 2 or 3 years. And we want to have these conversations right now. So we just had this meeting on the 20th of May. And it was an amazing turnout. We had over 100 community members show up. 40 plus needed translation. They only brought headsets for 10. So we had to kind of change the format and have it, you know, non-simultaneous translation, so English, Spanish. It was so great that we had so many community members there. We also had a bunch of our leaders, and it was the high school district and the city working together to think of solutions, to have people voice the problems. We heard people talk about how VTA buses are not safe, how sometimes when their kids are waiting for school, the buses will just pass them by because the buses are full and they can't take any more students. We heard about tardies for students, you know, getting there late just because of VTA. The district told us that they have chaser buses in the morning that aren't actually on the schedule, but they go right after one right after the other so they can pick up more students. And yet the parents also told us, or the students also told us, that those are the ones that still pass us by because there's still not enough room. We learned about we learned about passes, and the district has said that they give passes to everybody in 94085 and above, and yet we hear from families that that is not true, and this process is very opaque, and you know, it's very confusing how to get a pass, and then there's like many different layers of, oh, you have to go every month to show that you are actually using it to get the pass. So there's some things that are kind of low-hanging fruit that we could clear up. Some communication about how to get passes, making sure that the passes are available. Right now at Fremont High School, parking passes are given based on the priority is given to seniors. So if you are a junior that is driving to school from up north Sunnyvale, you might not have a parking pass, which means you're going to have a really hard time getting to school. You have to park in the neighborhoods. So we're asking them to switch to also prioritize distance. So this just happened. This meeting just happened. We are working on the follow-up. We talked about biking, and biking routes are not safe. There are not sufficiently protected lanes throughout the whole route. We had Charlie and Lou there with Bike Sunnyvale, and looking at some maps as well. Let's go down to the next slide, please. It was amazing. It was at Columbia Middle School. We insisted on having it in North Sunnyvale because the district offered to have it at the district office, but you know, the whole problem is that we're having a hard time getting down to school. So yes, we had it at Columbia Middle School. It was really well attended. We're really looking forward to continue working with the district and VTA, who also presented, to make sure that there are some, there are some solutions, or at least some ways to address these issues soon. Like fall of this coming year, there should be better VTA pass distribution, better parking passes, and also look at what else we need besides VTA. Because when you have a student that might want to do extracurriculars at the high school, and that extracurricular starts at 6 o'clock, we hear about students that just stay at school, so they have to leave at maybe 7:30 to get to school by 8:30 via VTA. They have all their classes, get out around 2:30, but then if you have to come back for your extracurricular, which starts around 6, and there are not special services for VTA running after school, they just kind of hang out. Some students just hang out around school. The library's not even open that whole time, so they have to source a meal somewhere. So then they can go to, marching band practice at 6 to 9. And so they're spending the whole day out of their house, not with their family, because the school is so far away. So these are some things that we really need to pay attention to, make sure that we get that transportation in place, make sure that we have somebody representing us and the needs of our students, and making sure that we're going to get a new high school built. Next slide. Yes, question. I don't know. I think there's some limited space issues, and maybe the people that are running the practice, I don't really know, but I know that there are extracurriculars that run late. So we ran our, this is some of our results from the transportation study. The district also started a study after we did, after we asked for the community meeting, and they had about 7% just response rates so far. So we're hoping that we can get some more robust information about some of the issues. And next slide, please. Looking at biking, these are the two routes that Charlene provided for us from Fremont and from Homestead High Schools. So there are a lot of barriers. The biggest barrier is safety, getting to school safely. Many parents and students do not feel safe biking on that path. There are not protected bike routes the whole way. There are certain intersections that are just kind of death traps, for pedestrians as well as bicyclists. There's training about safety, access to bikes, the culture of biking. That all has to be part of somebody who's willing to bike to school. So I was talking to, Ari Feinsmith from Bike Sunnyvale, right? And his mom would not allow him or his sister to bike to school from Fremont, to Fremont High School from 94089. And that they're very good bikers, but it's still not safe. Okay. Oh, this is a preview. I've been talking all about the high school district, but I wanted to do a little preview about the inequity in the Sunnyvale School District. This is actually my wheelhouse, is elementary and middle school. This is where I spend a lot of my time. So I just wanted to show you that there's some, so there's a large disparity in. We're just looking at this, for example, this through the Ed Foundation. We're just looking at fundraising income across all the school sites. And at one school, they raised $2,600 for the year, and another school it was $130,000 for the year. So the difference between the amount that was raised per student was $6 versus $217. Okay, this is just one sliver of these differences across the school district. We're working on identifying all those. There's a lot of differences in extracurricular opportunities. There's a lot of differences in number of field trips that schools take, as well as the academics as well. So that's a preview. We have a lot of work to do on equity in education, and I'm really excited to be here and share this information with you, and I hope that we could be partners, Livable Sunnyvale and Sunnyvale for Equity in Education. We've been out in the community a lot. We have tables, we show up at a lot of board meetings. We're having a meeting on Sunday, and it's being hosted by Gail at the El Dorado Mobile Home Park Clubhouse, where the DUMS Club meeting was a month ago. I would love for you all to join. It's going to be a social meeting, but we also need to kind of figure out the organization. Our group has only been around, we met with the district in January 13th, and it's June now. So I want to figure out this organization, figure out priorities. When I show up at a board meeting, I can't say, 160 people agree with me when I say this, right? So a lot of organizing to do, a lot of work to do. This is our flyer for Sunday. It's a potluck style. I hope you'll join us. And the next slide too. This is just to join the mailing list if you'd like to receive some information. That's how to do it. And we'd love to partner with you. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you. Well, we have it online. We have it on Facebook and Nextdoor and to all the school sites, so we're getting it out. But if you have any ideas, I think Gail just sent it to you, right, Paulina? So, but if you have, if you personally would like to join or a flyer or, distribute to your friends or any ideas, I'm happy to hear that. Whatever, wherever. We'd love people to join us. I'm excited to actually just get together in person with people, and so many people on the mailing list I have not met. I'd love to meet people in person, just have those conversations. It'll be really great. Oh, hey Gail, can you unmute, please?
Yeah. You had a slide with achievement. It was pretty far up.
Yep. Number 7.
Yeah. A couple more.
Yeah, this one.
Do you have historical data on, not that one, the one, I think one more down, one more up, I think. Yeah, that one. Do you have, well, I guess it would be that one. What number is that? 6 and 7. Do you have historical data? Because what I would be interested in is has the achievement level of Fremont, has it been stable for the 40 years, or has it gone up and down, or is it going in one direction or the other? And the same with the other schools, because I think in the 40 years, I think the demographics of all the schools have changed pretty dramatically.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure when they first started doing the SARC data, school accountability report cards, but all of that, since they started doing that, is available easily.
Okay, because that might be interesting. Is Fremont the only Title I school in the district?
Fremont isn't considered Title I.
Oh, I thought it was, because the principal told me it was.
It's different for the high school district. I don't think it's,
okay.
It's called Title I. It's a
Yeah,
different
he told me
funding
that they have
style.
special programs there.
Yeah, there's special funding programs on that. I don't think the term is Title I when we get to.
Oh, okay, I could be mistaken.
I
Okay,
could be
thank
wrong
you.
too, though. Yeah, thank you. You want to just
Test, okay. For the redistricting, Sunnyvale's a charter city, so we had to have an election approving that. But I believe for the Fremont Union High School District, they just need to do kind of a resolution, right? And when the Sunnyvale School District went to districts, I don't know, I was out of the room when that happened.
I think a lot of people were, yeah.
Maybe Martin knows.
Yeah, under the relevant state redistricting laws, you can just go by resolution. Sunnyvale could have just gone to districts by resolution if we hadn't been making related changes like adding the directly elected mayor.
Yeah, the Sunnyvale School District process for districting was not very well attended by the public. As far there wasn't a lot of community engagement from what I hear. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it looked like not many people were coming actually to the meeting. It took, well, since we started until the end, a whole year, we got our lawyers and our demographers involved and asked them to follow to the whole process. So what happened is that every month or every other month, they brought us the maps. These maps were built and they explained to us like it needs to have by law a different kind of populations and how they were measured depending on socioeconomic status of everything needs to be in the same in some formula. And from that, we show it to the community. We were going to we sent a lot of emails and posts to the families. We went every time there was an open meeting about that. Our communication person went and put it on the post and not just on our school communities, but also on the newspapers. And there were a lot of law requirements by law, but apparently not many people weren't following it because not many people come to the meetings either unless there is something very intense happening. They had at least 3 different sections of maps, and there was a point when we were looking how the maps were looking, and then we say, well, even though we're all having the same fiduciary and responsibility for every school inside the district as a board, we are going to try that each school has as many advocates, if they could be advocates, per school, so we don't have one trustee in one school and one trustee in the other school. If we can have as many as we can geographically will be great. So that was what the demographer then started to move in, like how we can make a map when we have as many advocates per school as possible. And it came to vote, we came to the sites, that we have a lot of open houses and in this, not just on the schools, but at the district until we came to one. And then there was also a deadline because we needed to have it approved by the ROV, the Register Office of Voters, with time to get into the 2022 elections. So we were against the clock because we wanted to have the first election that year. But the district also, the Fremont High School District, they need to hurry up and do that. And otherwise the community can ask for it, like hurry and get the maps and they need to go through the whole process and be very open with it and make it publicly available and call people to come and talk and give their opinions.
So I think Gail's hand was up first. Gail, do you have a question, or did you just not put your hand down?
Sorry.
Okay, Richard, you had a question?
I'll take it offline. Thank you.
Okay. Martin. I'm not going to give you the mic, Martin.
I just wanted to note that under the relevant California statutes, there is a minimum number of public hearings they have to have on the new districts before they can adopt them. So there's a certain minimum level of engagement that's required.
Yeah, it's I think about 5. It's linked in my slides if you'd like to look at the presentation. I think they're required to do 5, but they can certainly do more. Or the community could do more kind of information sessions. Yeah, so we can just make sure that that engagement process is really robust and that we have those opportunities. And when given those opportunities, like we had with the Sunnyvale School District, people actually show up.
So does anybody else have any other questions in the room? There's none from the people participating online. No? Yes, Carol. Here, hang on a sec.
Former, that's it. Exactly. My only comment is, if you were to look at the population of Cupertino and the number of high schools there, and the population of Sunnyvale, and there is 1. And we have what, double, 3 times, 4 times the population of Cupertino?
Yeah, and there's also a bond measure G that Cupertino did not vote to pass, but Sunnyvale did vote to pass, and they are still choosing to build a lot of new buildings down at the southern schools, and not there's no plan for a new high school up here.
And I remember the closing of Sunnyvale High School because that involved me because I live about, about a mile from Fremont. Yeah. And I distinctly remember how, closing Sunnyvale was just wrong. But the powers that be. Absolutely.
I'd love to talk with you more later. Thanks.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that was a lot of information and 2 very powerful and provoking speakers. So thank you. My only last slide to share is this month we wrote letters we wrote a letter for Sunnyvale Community Services to try to get a food grant. I'm not positive how that's gone yet, but we'll find out. And the other letter, we did not write this, but back in January, we had Adina Levin speak about Seamless Bay Area. And our Sunnyvale City Council sent a letter about Seamless Bay Area and trying to promote transportation. So I'm not sure I have anything else. Agnes? Oh.
So Peggy, are you familiar with a suggestion that we had to make your organization a coalition partner with Sunnyvale or with us? Okay, so then we need to vote on that. So we could, sorry? No, we changed the bylaws, Martin, so that we could do it at the same meeting in which a person spoke. That made more sense. Yeah. Yeah. No, you should always ask me those kind of technical things because people that know me know that I just they kind of go like this. So thank you, Martin. But we can vote this evening, and the vote would then be to include C as an organization, as a coalition partner with Livable Sunnyvale. So if those individuals that are on the Zoom, attending on Zoom, if you could raise your hand if you are in agreement to doing that. They can't, oh no. So yes, I'm sorry. Oh, see, this is why I need you, Martin. Would anyone like to make them? Okay, so now, can we vote now? Is there any discussion on this? God, Martin, I'm really glad you're here. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, now we can vote on the motion. So if those of you that are attending by Zoom could raise either your virtual hand or your real hand, and those of you in this room, raise your hand if you're in favor. Whichever is easier for those on Zoom, because I'm actually now having problems seeing everyone, Mike, so you may need to do the count. Okay.
I can count the Zoom participants for you since I'm looking at the thing if you wish.
Okay, that'd be great. And then we've got in the room. Excellent, okay.
We have 8 yeses in the online participants.
And we have in the room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'm
9
sorry.
in the room.
This is Serge. I don't see a way to vote online. The show
You
caption.
do, if you click on the more ellipsis, you should get a reaction, additional reactions. The 3 dots, the ellipses, if you click on that, you'll get reactions, and reactions where you would either check yes or raise your virtual hand.
I'm sorry, I do not have the more on my screen.
Okay.
No, we'll just vote.
Okay.
So
Do we need to, is that okay, Martin? Okay. So
We
how
had
many do
some
have
more
online
voters,
then?
so hang on, 5, 6, 10 now.
Okay, and I think we have 9, at least 9 in the room. Okay, I think we
Plus
did
1
it.
verbal yes, and the person, I guess.
No, no one voted no. I'm sorry, are there any no votes? Or are there any no votes either from Zoom or in the room? In the room, I see no votes. And we're not seeing any on Zoom either.
None on Zoom.
So I think that's it. Yay! Thank you. Yay! Thank you,
I'm
everyone.
sorry, what was the total vote tally? I had the 10 online, but how many were in room? What was the total vote tally in room, please?
I think we had 9.
9 in room. Thank you.
You're
There
welcome.
were 2 more. There were 2 more online. Serge and Linda. They text me.
Okay, so 12 online then, and 9 in room.
Okay. Thank you.
And no votes.
Agnes, you muted my microphone. I think we're good. Thank you all for coming and participating, and I hope that more people will attend these school functions and we can get some more equity in Sunnyvale. So thank you all, and thank you Sunnyvale Community Services for hosting us. This meeting is adjourned.